The Klingon B'ral class warship was introduced in the 2280s and is one of the most advanced warships seen in the Alpha Quadrant powers. It had a large shield value of 325,000, a cloaking device, and a revolutionary one nacelle armored warp drive capable of warp factor 8, later upgraded to 9.8. The ship was able to operate on a crew of 12, typically had a crew of 30, and this was in comparison to ships of a similar size would typically have a crew of 100 or two. This was obtained through advanced automation. The Burrell's hull was heavily armored for a ship of its size. The ship was only 110 meters and had a mass of 236,000, with a hull defense value of 195,000, giving it a armor point to mass rating of 1.21, making this ship one of the most well-armored ships for its size. In comparison, the Klingon Katanga has a mass of 760,000 and the same hull value or defensive value of 195,000, giving the Katanga a much lower rating of 3.89 and shields of 130,000. The B'ral hull has been seen to take 2 direct hits from a photon torpedo with its shields down and still be operational. The B'ral has 2 disruptor cannons and 1 torpedo launcher. The disruptors in the 2280s were at 2,250 terawatts and a full volley of 15 shots per disruptor seen in the Star Trek III movie. Based off the captain's comparison to the Federation-class starship Constitution class, the B'ral is said to be 10 times weaker in firepower compared to the Enterprise.
Ready to fire emergency tube.
Why haven't they finished us? They outgunned me 10-1.
My lord, the enemy commander wishes
The Enterprise, having 20 phasers at 2,812 terawatts each, are capable of 12 shots per volley, giving the Constitution-class starship full attack value of 674,880 terawatts. In comparison, the B'ral has a firepower rating of 67,488 terawatts and a weapon range of 16,000 kilometers. This ship's design was so successful that 5 different variants were constructed from this B'ral design, some being as small as a shuttle and others as large as 678 meters. This line of ships are all under the classification of bird of prey. New upgrades to the ship disruptors were seen in the 2370s during the Dominion War. With the improved firepower with more moderate weapons like the disruptors of 16,250, 24,375, and the most common seen 32,500, seen on almost all Klingon ships by the 2370s. The bird of prey made up the backbone of the Klingon Empire. The smallest versions only having a defense of 65,000 or 1 torpedo. Others had a defense of 390,000, 520,000, 585,000, 650,000, 1,170,000, and the largest being the Cavort at 1,625,000, being constructed as a light cruiser. The B'ral has an armor point of 1.21, and the D12 is 2.38. And the lowest armor point going to the largest of the group, the Cavort, at 5.2. This ship's mass is over 1,890 metric tons, making it the second lowest armored capital ship of the Alpha Quadrant superpowers. It should be noted that this low armor is substituted by a large shield of 1,267,500. And its low armor makes the ship easier to mass produce and is far more maneuverable compared to other large capital ships of its size, giving it a slight edge. To give you an understanding of how the armor point works, the higher the percentage, the lower the value of armor the ship has. So for an example, if you're 4.0 and up, you're considered low armor. mediums 2 to 3, and heavy armor like the Defiant with abrasive armor would be 0 to 2. So when you do look at this, you can see that ships that are in the next generation, most of them really are not heavily armored, which makes sense because they really weren't in war at that time. And then you see during the threats of the Borg and the Dominion, you see that those ships we're fighting are significantly stronger in armor. But you can also see that the B'ral is a medium class armor, which is pretty good for its time period. Or I'm sorry, I mean it's heavy for its time period being 1.21, and you see the D12 is also pretty medium. So orange is heavy armor, and the bluish color is a medium, which was seen mostly during the Kirk era by like the Miranda, the Constitution, the Centaur, and then even the Katanga is in that category. And then the really heavy stuff um, is the 0 to 2, which is stuff like the Defiant and the Jem'Hadar bug ship. And then one of the things I found that was really interesting when I did this is the Warbird has the worst armor rating. So its mass to armor is the lowest. So the Warbird in D Space Nine had a defense value of 940,000 with its shields down, and oh, I'm sorry, 650,000 with its shields down. And then there's a 940 version is an upgraded version during the Dominion Wars. So during the Enterprise or the Enterprise D era, it would be 6.6, and then during the Dominion War, it was a little bit better at 4.6, which I thought was pretty interesting. And then one of the things that I thought was really strange, it caught me off guard, is when I did the Akira. The Akira has a defense value of its hull is only 650,000. So that means 4.6 was its armor point, which means about the same as the Galaxy class. And a lot of people thought that this thing had abrasive armor, but it does not, or at least none of the versions that you see in D Space Nine do. And the reason that we know that is we see a Galaxy class take 8 hits and then not get destroyed from the orbital defense platforms the Cardassians have, and we see the Akira gets blown up in 5 shots from the beams, which is the phasers, and then a second one gets blown up from 2 beams and 3 torpedoes. So it's a ratio of 5 to 5. So it tells us that the torpedoes that they're using and the beams had the same strength value because they're able to take out the Akira. And so obviously the Akira does not have abrasive armor, but if it did, its hull value based on its mass would be 4,492,647, which would be pretty incredibly strong. As you can see, the Sovereign does have some kind of abrasive armor or something on it because its defense value is extremely high, and that's just the hull value. Like that ship is super strong. Um, and its mass is, almost equivalent to a nebula. So it gives you an idea of how powerful it is. So that's what this chart shows you. So these are all the ships. The chart is only based off of the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and the movies. I don't do any cartoons or books. So these are only based on canon. I hope you enjoyed my video. And one more last thing is I thought it was pretty interesting that the Volca class cruiser, which is the most common, only has an armor rating of 3.4, and the Katanga had an armor rating of 3.8. So those ships were built kind of similar to one another. So I thought it was pretty cool that the people who designed it did that.